Welcome in again, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the R&D Sports Report. My name's Dishmond, and I'm joined here, as always, by my faithful co-host, Rylee. Rylee, how we doing this evening?
Doing pretty great, man.
All right, so we do have, we got a few things to get through, a few things to talk about. It just keeps coming this time of year. Everything just seems to all kind of line up and keep the information flowing for us. So we have plenty to talk about and plenty to get to, and let's get started in the NBA with some of the bigger news that came down today that Kyrie Irving will be done for the season, right? Not just regular season, but also for the postseason. How obviously that hurts the Celtics' chances in the playoffs. How bad do you think it hurts it, and does this take them out of the possibility to be able to win the East?
I don't think it really takes them out just yet. I mean, granted, Kyrie is a superstar. He's definitely an MVP. But I don't think they're out of it just yet. They still have great players. I don't think Jason Tatum is injured. He's doing really well right now. Terry Rozier is out there. He's doing great right now. Don't know who else is out there, but they've got a good bench. It's not like they're terrible. But I definitely don't think they're out of it. I think they still have a good, or at least a slight chance of getting past the first round.
I don't think there's maybe any doubt that they get past the first round. But you never know, obviously, with Kyrie, and they kind of were holding serve there and hoping, I guess, he'd be back. But, I mean, come on, like that Boston-Washington first round, as it would be right now, is not exactly an easy advance for Boston, especially with their history in that rivalry, so to speak, with the Wizards. Like, that's not, I don't think, going to be an easy out for them. But, you know, to do that, so say they win, as the playoffs would set right now, which the East, the 8 teams that are going to get in, right, that's completely set. That got set last night. And the matchups still are in a fluid situation because there's seeding that can change around. But if it ended right now, today, you have the Raptors, the Bucks, you still have the Sixers, Pacers, then you have the Cavs and the Heat. So if the Cavs get past the Heat and, say, the Celtics get past the Wizards, it almost seems certain that would be the end of the line for the Celtics matching up second round with the Cavs, don't you think? Or or what do you think?
It depends on how you like you said, the seeding. But it really depends because I know everybody goes clutch mode in the playoffs. So
yeah, but at the same time, now you don't have Kyrie playoff mode.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, LeBron's about to hit playoff mode for Cleveland, and we saw how good Kyrie was last year in the playoffs, right? And now for Boston, they don't get that Kyrie in the playoffs, so they don't have that. Now, granted, some of the other players may go playoff mode, but they seem, you know, obviously this is going to hurt, I think, on a massive term.
I would agree. You know, if they get past the Wizards and, you know, the Cavs move on as well, I do think it will be the end of the road for them. Sadly, because, of course, you know, I wanted to see the Celtics move on, especially with Gordon Hayward and Kyrie as well. Sadly, they're both out, though, so I'm hoping they get as far as they can. I don't think they'll beat the Cavs, but we shall see what happens.
Well, and for Boston, I mean, I guess the upside is that as it looks now, they're pretty much locked into the first or second seed there in the East. So they can either get one or they'll get two. Most likely they'll end up with two because the Raptors have a 3-game advantage on them. So obviously it looks like they're going to end up as the 2 seed. But I mean that's still pretty good there in in the East to be the 2 seed at least. So most people have 3 to 4 games remaining. Toronto's got 4 games remaining. Boston's got 4. So theoretically, there's a chance that Boston could end up as the 1 seed. But they won't end up any lower than, it looks like, the 2 seed right now. Yeah, because they have a 5-game. Boston has a 5-game lead on Cleveland, so they're locked into 1 or 2 right now. So I mean that's decent, but then it goes, well, how much of this was that early season success that they were killing it, you know?
Right.
But I mean they've still been playing pretty good as of late. But obviously not as good as they were playing in the beginning of the year and since Kyrie's been down. Like, you've seen other players step up, but the question is, can that core group, you know, the Tatums, and I think Marcus Smart is even injured, isn't he?
Yes.
You know, so. Tatum, Rozier, I think one of the Morris twins is on there. You know, like, how will all that work out? Because obviously they don't have Gordon Hayward.
Right,
and now they've lost Kyrie. So Boston has dealt with a lot of injuries, and to even be in consideration for the 1 or 2 seed, I think is an amazing thing in and of itself. And I think you have to give props there to Brad Stevens and Danny Ainge for assembling that team as it currently stands.
Oh, I would agree. He's doing a great job for what he's given.
Well, I mean, you know, Danny Ainge, yeah, he gave up a pick and you know, a few players to get Kyrie, but it seems to have benefited. Brad Stevens has put together an amazing game plan for that team and to be able to work now together. But you just got to think, if they get that second round with Cleveland's going to be the heavy favorite, I would think.
I would think, but I'm not going to put anything past it.
No, but I think for Cleveland, the advantage there would be you have one LeBron James.
Yeah.
You know, overall, the Celtics might have, if you remove LeBron, obviously, from the Cavs, overall, the Celtics would have probably the better team. But I think it would still kind of be somewhat close, because, I mean, Cleveland would still have Kevin Love, obviously. But it would be close there, but then when you add LeBron, I think that just catapults them. But you know, before we can talk about that, Cleveland's got to be able to stay ahead of Philadelphia. Right now, they just own the tiebreaker with Philadelphia. That's why they're the 3 seed and Philadelphia is the 4. So they still have to close out the season, and Philadelphia does as well. But you know, this could really hurt. I think I think it automatically almost makes you think Boston can't at least get to the Eastern Conference Final. Like, I just don't see a path for them getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, and definitely not the Finals. But I think at the same time, this kind of opens it up almost a little easier for Toronto. Right?
Dude, the East is not doing so well right now. The only two, I feel, that competitors right there, two brick walls, are Toronto and the Cavaliers. I feel that they are just 2 big powerhouses right now, and I feel that if anybody's got to get through them to get to the finals in the East.
And I mean, as you said, the East is weak. Like, I don't think it's as weak, though, as people make it out to be. Yes, comparatively to the West, it's weaker because you still have, 4 games remaining and your 8 playoff teams are set up. But, like, Milwaukee could hit a stride, with having Giannis, Eric Bledsoe there. Like, they could still make noise. Philly, you can't count them out because you don't know when Joel Embiid will be back for them.
Trust the process.
And, they're, extremely just trusting the process there. And, the Pacers, I don't think they'd really make noise, but they're that silent team that you haven't really heard a whole lot about this year. Obviously, Cleveland's there with LeBron. Miami, I don't think could make a lot of, the one that wouldn't really surprise me if they made noise is Washington, because I think they've underachieved all year long. And if you can get John Wall, is he back? Or I think he's about to come back.
Maybe. I think he might be.
I think he's close to coming back.
But I don't honestly know yet.
But, you put him back with as well as Bradley Beal's been playing and Otto Porter Jr., like, that could be the one, like, their seeding, yes, it's terrible, but it wouldn't surprise me, honestly, if they beat Boston and they advance past the first round instead of Boston. If they, get John Wall back and they put it all together real quick, because the other players without Wall there have had time to kind of raise their game, right? And then you add John Wall back into it, and then it becomes a tougher team to beat.
Well, you gotta think though. Like, you were talking about, the teams hitting their strides. If you look at the regular season, right? There's been so many teams that have hit a game-winning streak, or games winning streaks, and have gotten their stride, and then they just went downhill, and then they got back up, hit their stride again. For instance, like,
well, I mean, Philadelphia's on a 12-game winning streak. I think it is right now.
Well, even OKC, they had I think they had like a 7-game winning streak, and then they lost to someone like Denver Nuggets. Things like that. Like, I'm not gonna put past any team, because you never know when they could hit their stride, especially with the players that are on the team.
Well, and it's funny, like, the way we talk about this, it sounds like we're talking about like the NCAA tournament, right?
Exactly.
As they hit their stride. And yeah, for the most part, by now in the NBA season, we know what the teams look like, how they're going to play. But not to just keep beating a dead horse here in Cleveland and the changeover, but like, there's still a lot that has happened for them, since the All-Star break, the trade deadline, and all that. And it's not like they've been playing together since the beginning of the season with that exact roster. So they're still figuring little things out. Ty Lue left for health reasons, and now it's come back. Like, and then you had that transition. So there are some teams that, the Cavs, have we seen the best of them? Maybe not. Kevin Love was out when all those players came back in. Now you add Kevin Love back in. Like, once again, they're still trying to figure it out, and Cleveland could just bulldoze through the playoffs, and it really wouldn't surprise anybody because they'd hit their stride, as we keep saying. But I mean, you kind of can look at it the same as the NCAA teams, right? You want to see who's playing their best basketball going into the playoffs. And, certainly New Orleans seems to be making noise, but right now the problem is they're slated to play Houston. Yeah. And Houston's been playing great ball all year. Yeah,
last time I checked, they had like their losses were like 15.
Yeah, they're 63-15 on the year, because I'm looking here at the playoff standings as like right now.
If we go to the West here, there's a lot of powerhouses, not as much as the East, but there's a lot of big teams here. You got to think.
Well, big-time players, too.
Right. You got Golden State Warriors, as always. Kevin Durant, Clay, Steph, Draymond, and even Iguodala. And then you got the OKC Thunder, Russ, PG, 13, and then you got Carmelo, which they've been on and off. And then even the Trailblazers. Damian has been going off lately, dude. I don't know if you've seen any of his plays, but he's been going off. Him and, I don't know how you pronounce it. Is it McCollum? Is that how you pronounce it? It's like
McCollum?
Yeah. Is that how you pronounce it? Okay. I didn't want to butcher it. And then you got the Rockets. Like, you have Chris Paul and James Harden.
And like the other players on that team aren't slouches either.
No. They have been hitting their stride the whole year. They've been going off the whole year. Their loss record explains it. I think that they're going to be able to get past Golden State no matter what happens.
I think that, like, because Houston and Golden State are locked into 1 and 2. So you have that locked in. Portland still is not locked into the 3. They're locked into the playoffs. Utah right now is at the 4 in the West, but the funny thing is they're still not locked into a playoff berth.
No.
But, because
but I feel they have at least a great chance to get in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, I mean, considering Utah has a 2-game lead on Denver and a 3-game lead on the Clippers, like one of those two teams would really have to make some waves in these last 4 games to have a chance at it. You know, so that's the crazy thing is even like OKC, right? They are a game and a half ahead of Denver of being out of the playoffs. You know, that can quickly change. You know, in the matter of even 2 games at that, like at the most 2 games. All it would take is for OKC to lose 2 games, Denver to win 2 games, and then Denver has a half-game lead on them.
Yes. Real quick, speaking of OKC, PG-13 said something about his shot feeling funny. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I did not know.
Yeah, he said that, you know, I guess you could say he wasn't hitting his stride. But, you know, he said his shot was feeling funny and that he just felt like he wasn't actually shooting like he was back at, you know, Indiana Pacers. And it kind of sucks to hear that as a OKC fan, but I'm hoping that they can do something in the playoffs, or even if they get into the playoffs, I'm hoping they can do something.
Here's just the cynical nature of me. Is he just saying that for teams when he comes up to free agency, right? To be like, my shot just feels a little funny. That's maybe why I had a little off year. Like it felt different in OKC and then Indiana, right?
Could.
You know, just to be like, hey, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, I didn't have a huge drop off this year. Like, my shot just felt a little funny, but it'll work out in the summer.
You also got to think he's playing next to 2 superstars, Russell Westbrook,
right?
Carmelo, and you got to think at Indiana he was
the star.
I was gonna say he was the main guy.
Right.
Here he's just kind of like a sidekick.
Well,
like
he's
Batman and Robin.
He's kind of like Russ's sidekick, but they're kind of equals. But everybody knows that Thunder are Russ's team, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, like the West is crazy to think that you have only 3 teams officially locked in, with for some teams 3 games, for most of them though 4 games left in the season. Like that's a crazy thought to think that Utah could drop from the 4 all the way out of the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
And the Clippers could get in, the Nuggets could get in, the Pelicans could jump from 8 to 4. Within the matter of a game. That's what's crazy, because between the 4 seed Utah Jazz and the 8 seed Pelicans, there's a 1 game difference. The Pelicans are 1 game behind the Jazz, and that's crazy in and of itself, because if you look at it, you have the Spurs at the 5, OKC at the 6, Minnesota at the 7, and New Orleans at the 8. Now, for all intents and purposes, their records are pretty much the same. San Antonio and OKC have played 1 more game, but that would be made up. That's why they're only a half game ahead. But San Antonio owns the tiebreaker against OKC, Minnesota, and New Orleans. That's why they're all the way up at the 5. If something flip-flops there, San Antonio could go from the 5 to the 8. Like, that's the crazy thing, is that if you're Utah, right, the difference in a game is hosting the first round to playing the Rockets in the first round. Like, to me, the West is more competitive and like closer matched, obviously, than the East. But that, it's just crazy to think that we're 4 games out. There's still 10 teams that are officially available for the playoffs, and so you have 10 teams that could make the playoffs. 3 of them are guaranteed. So then you have 7 teams vying for 5 spots. This is going to get interesting in these next few games, because even between, tonight and next week when we record, right, it'll all pretty much be, for the most part, settled by then. But, a lot could change. New Orleans literally could go from the 8 to the 4.
Now, I'm going to, agree with you, because in a matter of a game, it could just switch instantly.
To not have that much separation.
Right. But another team I wouldn't sleep on is the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have been really good this year. Between Karl Anthony Towns and then Jimmy Butler, and also who's a point guard?
Teague, isn't it?
I believe
Jeff
that's
Teague.
it. Yeah. I just feel like they've been doing well. I feel like they're again hitting their stride as well.
Well, and they're tied like with the Pelicans. You know, they're theoretically tied with OKC and San Antonio. So, you know, all that they could jump, you know, from 7 to 4. So
right. I'm interested in seeing how the playoffs do. I'm interested in seeing who gets in and who doesn't. And definitely the seeds are what I'm interested in to see what the matchups are. But you know, speaking of the Spurs, did you hear about all that stuff with Kawhi as well?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit. You know, that teams were interested, and you know, Bleacher Report today. I think it was today. They put out, you know, some possible trading partners for San Antonio for the offseason, right? Obviously, Kawhi's going to stay with them through the season, considering the trade deadline's over. But there were some interesting trades, to say the least, that would be out there for the Spurs. And obviously, some of these are just hypotheticals. You know, let's be clear on that. These are just hypotheticals, no talks. But these are packages that would, in theory, work for the Spurs to trade Kawhi. So I'll give these, Rylee, and then you tell me which one seems the most intriguing, and which one is the most realistic in your opinion. So the first one we get to is the Celtics. We were talking about them. And, you know, Danny Ainge could go out and get Kawhi because he's got enough assets and good enough players to be able to go get him. So the trade that they have here is Kawhi for Marcus Morris, Terry Rozier, Jason Tatum, and Daniel Theis, and a top 19 or 2019 top 8 projected first round pick from Boston that came from the Grizzlies. Like, first off, what do you think, like, that trade there? Is that too much to give up for Kawhi, you think, for the Celtics?
Yes and no. Like, you got to think, Kyrie's coming back next year.
And you'd have Gordon Hayward back.
Gordon Hayward's coming back next year. Then you got a great small forward. Kawhi Leonard? Come on. That's a great matchup. I'm just saying.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, the only problem I have is giving up, like, both Marcus Morris and Jason Tatum. Now, like, they have, Greg Monroe they signed. They could keep him there at center. But, like, those two players are good enough to stretch the D and shoot three, you know?
I was going to say. Like, I mean, and I'm sure.
And Tatum, you know, like, he's a rookie.
Not only that, but Jason has been hitting his.
He's been hitting his stride, as we keep saying, right?
Exactly. He's been doing really well this year.
Yeah, well, and especially like without Kyrie in there. Like,
yeah, he's definitely been the main guy.
I think that's a little too much,
really,
to give up. Like, I don't know. Like, I think you leave out Marcus Morris or Jason Tatum, and you could probably still get it done.
I'd say leave out Jason Tatum.
I agree. I think he's still just too young. Here is, though, an interesting one, you know, for Milwaukee trying to impress Giannis, that the Bucks would get Kawhi Leonard and Patty Mills from the Spurs, and then the Spurs would get Malcolm Brogdon, Thon Maker, Chris Middleton, Tony Snell, and a 2019 first-round pick.
Yeah, I don't feel Milwaukee has enough assets to give to the Spurs.
Yeah, but I mean that would be interesting to put Bledsoe, Kawhi, and Giannis together. And then you bring in Patty Mills as either you could play him as your two, or you could play him as your backup point guard. Like, Patty Mills is a very serviceable shooting guard or point guard. So
yeah, I think it's a good trade. I just don't think it's. I don't think the players have enough skill just for Patty Mills and Kawhi. The only thing I think that really hit my eye was Tony Snell. He's been doing pretty well, and also the first round pick as well. But like, I'm gonna be honest with you, Malcolm Brogdon. I don't know who that is. I just don't think that they have enough valuable players to give to the Spurs.
Well, I think for this one, when you have like Malcolm Brogdon, Thon Maker, and Chris Middleton, you're giving younger players, and you're giving a 2019 first round pick. So like, there's that young talent there for the Spurs to kind of rebuild around kind of quickly, but I don't know if that one will work, because whoever's going to take Kawhi, right, you're going to then want Kawhi to sign a contract as well. The next one, for me, is kind of an interesting thought, and it's the Cavs. Now, it seems like anytime a big superstar, right, is mentioned, that the Cavs are always mentioned, because I think it's people saying, let's impress LeBron and show him that we care, right? Show him that we want him here and that we are willing to build around him and put really good players around him. But you would get the Cavs would get Kawhi and Patty Mills in this situation, and then the Spurs would get George Hill, Kyle Korver, C.D. Osman.
It's Osman.
Is it Osman?
Yeah.
I thought they said Osman.
It might be. We might have just butchered it.
We went. And then Ante Zizic. I don't know. I'm obviously not on their pronunciation sheet, so but here's the big kicker, is that they would get a 2018 first round pick from Cleveland. So this honestly could be something that would happen draft day, right? Just like that would be picking up Kawhi instead of getting that possibility of a first number one overall pick. They could pick up Kawhi instead, and then the Spurs can pick up a great first round pick this year, not waiting until 2019 to recoup on that. George Hill's a little bit older. Kyle Korver obviously is older. The two names that I struggle with to pronounce, those two I think are younger players. So once again, you get the young players, but then you also get that first round pick. If that would turn into the number one overall pick, you could get a DeAndre Ayton, to go alongside of LaMarcus Aldridge. So you could get your player back, so to speak, from Kawhi. But that would, I think, be an interesting dynamic if you think about it, because, if you say Patty Mills starts because you got rid of George Hill, well, then you could put Kawhi at the 2 if you wanted, LeBron at the 3, Kevin Love at the 4, and Larry Nance Jr. at the 5. Or you could go Kawhi 3, LeBron 4, Kevin Love plays the 5. Like, that's a nice small lineup right there.
Yes, it is.
Because, the Warriors like to go small. You could play a nice small lineup there with Love at the 5, LeBron at the 4, and then LeBron's a mismatch for who's guarding him, on the court.
Right.
And so is Kevin Love, because he can step out and shoot that 3.
But I don't think that the Cavs would have a decent bench if they did this trade.
They've never really had a decent bench, though.
Well, I mean, that's true,
even Miami really didn't. They had an okay bench. Like, Miami was able to build enough around when they had the big 3, and that's the problem when you have so many superstars that need big money. You can't spend that much on the bench.
I thought of this player. I know they wouldn't do it, but this is just a thought. What if they did just Kevin Love?
I don't think the Spurs would go for it. A Kevin Love Kyrie swap. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I think that'd be pretty cool, but I just don't think it'll happen.
I agree. I don't think it will happen either. But, the last one on here is one that I kind of see being maybe the bigger possibility. And that's Kawhi to the Lakers. Because, we talked about, especially around trade time and the trade deadline itself, right? And we've discussed both on here and off that the Lakers' possibility of not going out to maybe get a LeBron or PG-13 this year, they could just wait and focus on 2019 free agents, which would be Kawhi, would be, one of the big ones. And so the Lakers would get Kawhi Leonard in this scenario. And then the Spurs would get Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, Kyle Kuzma, and a 2019 first-round pick. First off, I think that would be too much for the Lakers to give up just for Kawhi in return. I think maybe you leave like Kuzma off and you keep the first-round pick in, or leave Ingram off. But I think Ingram might be the deal breaker, if you pull him off. Like, that could really turn around the Lakers pretty quick. Because then you would have Lonzo. If you could keep Kuzma, you would have Kuzma and Kawhi there. Like, if you keep Julius Randle around too, that's a pretty good lineup, I would think.
It's decent, like you said.
But, I think it would also shift the Lakers. Right, they obviously would say, okay, we're not going to gradually rebuild. Much like the 76ers did, they slowly built up their lineup to the point it is now. Lakers would be like, no, we're scrapping this. We're going to go out and get us a superstar. And then start, keep building a little bit more. But
see, if they're trying to go for a young kind of team like Philly did, they're going to wreck that if they do this whole trade with Kawhi. Like you said earlier with, if they kept Kyle and then, had Brandon, Josh Hart, and maybe the first-round pick, that's decent. But it really depends on what the Spurs want.
I think to be fair, I don't think there's any situation in any trade that's going to involve Kawhi that doesn't involve a first-round pick at all.
Oh, yeah.
So
I just don't think it's a possibility. Brandon Ingram, he's a great player, but I just don't think it'll be enough for the Kawhi trade. I almost say Kyrie. But I just don't think it'll be enough. It really depends on how the Spurs look at Brandon and Josh Hart as well, and also where that first-round pick is as well. Like, it really, really depends on where everything's at in the moment, All
right, so we have a couple more scenarios here on this Bleacher Report, possible trading. And this next one, I don't see the team involved pulling this trade.
No.
Because they've not really shown to be doing this. And that's the Phoenix Suns, where they would get Kawhi and Patty Mills. First off, I don't even know if Kawhi would really want to go there. So, you would have to almost be assured that he's going to re-sign with you to make a massive trade like this. So, the Suns would get Kawhi and Patty Mills. The Spurs would get Dragan Bender, Jared Dudley, Josh Jackson, and a 2018 first-round pick. That's a nice package, but I don't think there's a whole lot to see here.
Phoenix Suns, dude. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's just not. I'm sorry.
I just don't see the Suns doing that.
No.
But this next one,
unless they packed a whole bunch of money with them.
This last one on here, I can see this happening.
Could.
And how great would it be if the Philadelphia 76ers make a trade for Kawhi? Now, obviously, then they would be giving up on the LeBron sweepstakes.
I would be done.
But
I would be so done, bro.
The Sixers would receive Kawhi, okay? And then the Spurs would get Jared Bayless, Markelle Fultz, last year's, number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Timothy Laua Cabaret. I don't know. That's probably bad. My bad, buddy. If I just butchered that so terribly. But anyways, Dario Saric and a 2018 first-round pick. Now, that might be a little bit much, but at the same time, like, and this just popped in my head as we were talking about this. When we're talking of some of these trades, right, some of these players are involved just for money aspects. To make the money match in these trade-offs, you have to kind of send a lot of players to get one player back, in Kawhi. But how deadly would the Sixers be to have J.J. Redick there, to have Kawhi, to have Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons? Plus, there's still other good players there, right? Yeah, you get rid of what you thought might be your point guard of the future in Markelle Fultz, but at the same time, like, you just flipped the process. Like, you're no longer trusting the process. Like, the process is here, and it is clearly working, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I honestly think that's kind of what the 76ers have been working at. Build enough equity up, right, that you've developed a couple superstars in Embiid and Ben Simmons. You've gotten a big name player in J.J. Redick in off free agency because you had the cap space. Well, now you have all these assets to be able to deal, to go get a guy like Kawhi. Like, I mean, I don't know about you, but of all these scenarios, I can see this Philly one happening.
It's definitely a huge possibility out of all the ones we just stated. I feel like Markelle is a huge factor because you got to think, if he's going to the Spurs, Tony Parker's getting old. Dude.
Right, yeah, that's their new point guard. You still have LaMarcus Aldridge there. But like at the same time, Markelle was injured quite a bit, for most of the season. And he hasn't really shown a whole lot this season.
True, but I feel like he hasn't gotten his chance yet. So I could see where the Spurs could accept him, but I feel he's going to be hanging out with a lot of older guys and a lot of more experienced guys, so that can make him a little bit better than what he is now. But I do think that it's a good trade. I'm not going to try to pronounce their names just because. But I feel that, definitely the first round pick is definitely a good throw in. It's like throwing in just a little extra cash. That's pretty much all it is. But I really do see this one happening.
I could trade
night. It kind of excites me, but really scares me.
Like trade night, I could see that one or the Cavs happening. Because obviously the draft happens before free agency would happen. So you could see Cleveland make a move to get Kawhi to try and keep LeBron, But that 76er one is pretty enticing. But I want to switch off the actual NBA to something that the NBA just officially fully launched, and that's the NBA2k League. For those that aren't familiar, NBA 2K is a video game that comes out every year. So this year it's NBA 2K18. You can play as your favorite superstar. You can create your own superstar. And now the NBA is venturing into the esports world. We've seen other leagues created in the gaming industry. And we've seen a lot of money now flowing into the gaming industry, and it actually becoming a almost a legitimate thing to do as a line of work. But real quick before we kind of dive into it, first, just quick thoughts on the NBA 2K League from you, Rylee.
I think it's quite exciting, especially for us gamers. I'm a gamer, and I do play 2K as well, but I think it's going to be exciting for people that are trying to get into gaming and are really huge fans of 2K. I think it's going to be exciting. I really do. I might actually watch it myself, but it should be exciting, especially for these big people that are coming in and players that want to try it out and try to get better as well.
And I agree with you. I think it also is going to kind of push more people to setting down and playing more and more video games like all the time. I mean, you and I both like like to play video games. You and I both like to play 2K against one another to see who's the best, play Madden against each other, whatever it may be. We'll play online and all that, but at the same time, like, we're not sitting down every hour of the day playing it, trying to make it a job for us. And you have to imagine that's kind of what some of these guys did. But you have to believe the NBA is super invested in this because, I mean, they put it on NBA TV and they did this big setup for the draft because they had an actual draft. That's, I think, the thing that blows my mind the most. Is that they had a draft, and Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, was there doing it. With the first pick in the 2018 NBA2k league, and I think it was the Mavs Gaming selects, his nickname's Dimes. So, with this, there are 17 teams in the league, and from the article that we read in the Washington Post, right? They said that the future was to get all 30 teams represented in the 2K league, and they seem to be pretty serious about this because Adam Silver is quoted as saying this is just going to be our fourth league, right? You have the NBA, the WNBA, the G League, and now they're viewing it as the 2K League. So they're viewing this just as another league for them. The crazy thing is this is pretty much a 6-month job when you're talking of the 2K League and the draftees. Do you remember how they had to play a tournament or something to be able to become eligible for the draft? Is that what they did?
Yes, I believe so. They had certain people, like they had.
So it was like pro-ams or something like that, wasn't it? And certain matchups.
Yeah, they had like certain matchups, and if you defeated it, you would get in. It's pretty much like, I guess, like a lottery kind of thing, like a lottery ticket, But they pretty much just played. I can't remember how it was set up. I think it was against each guy.
It was kind of like a round robin, like they play each other, something, best record qualifies or something like that, I think.
I think they had like multiple tournaments and they just picked whoever was champion. But this really excites me because I like watching like Black Ops and stuff like that on.
I would say you're more into that than I am to watch other people game and stuff like that. I like to play. I'm not too keen on watching other people play, but I know like for you and even other people your age, like that's more of a thing to do than it is for me.
I would yeah. I just like I watch like Black Ops tournaments and stuff like that. Like I like FaZe and Optic Gaming and stuff like that. I watch them, and to hear this stuff come out, that's not a shooter game, is really exciting for me because I feel, you and me play, but we aren't like pros. We shoot, dribble, and that's it. These guys go full on and dribble.
Yeah, dribble moves.
Yeah, it's like a whole Mortal Kombat thing. They know the moves and they know how to.
It's like watching just normal people play Madden versus like professional people play Madden. And doing the plays and this and that. Like, and I think speaking of Madden, I think this will lead the NFL into this. Because this is the first league by a U.S.-based professional league in the esports world.
It's definitely a possibility, and you can trust that I would watch the NFL league as well.
Now, the thing that I think is crazy is kind of some of these salaries. So, obviously, there are 17 first-round picks for the 17 teams. And if you were one of those first-round ppicks, you got $35,000 for 6 months. 6 months of playing.
You think that's bad or good?
I think it's a little bad when you have people in the NBA right? So if you come straight out of high school to the NBA, you're gonna make somewhere probably between $19,500, $19,500 and $26,000. So like, it's lower than people in their G. Like that's my thing. It's lower than people without a two-way contract, because obviously the two-way contracts in the G League can run between $50,000 and $75,000. But with that two-way, you have the ability to be pulled up to the NBA. If you're just a G League player, these people playing video games are making more than you in 6 months.
I would totally agree with you. And what's even more jacked up is they get like health care, and they get flights to wherever.
I was gonna say they're getting like health care and housing. Yeah. I saw that, because they have to relocate to the city where like Mavs game, and you'd have to obviously, I'm assuming, relocate to Dallas.
Yeah.
Now, they have to be a part of these tournaments. Each team is made up of 6 players. I think it's interesting to note that in the article, it said that the teams weren't paying the players, that the league was paying the players.
Yeah, I saw that they hoped to profit like over $1 billion from this.
Well, and I think that's almost what's sad the most, is that I think easily they can make more money here with the NBA2k league
than the G League,
than they can profiting from advertisements and all that in the G League, because you put this 2K league on things like Twitch and all the advertisements that would roll. Like, it's crazy to think of that, because this e-sports world is becoming so much and so big, right, that the advertisements there, people want to buy into it. Now, they want to get ahead of that curve,
Right. I feel what you're saying. If I was a G League player, I'd try to step up my skill as much as I could.
On 2K or in the actual like physical basketball game?
Physical
I mean, I thought I should just be clear there. Like, do I step it up in my 2K game, or do I step it up on the court itself?
Yeah, physical. I'd kind of be mad. I'm out here busting my butt, and you're sitting down with a controller, twiddling your thumbs, and getting more money than I am. That's kind of ridiculous. I'm to be honest, that kind of frustrates me. Granted, I love video games, but that really does frustrate me, because I feel bad for them. They're out there shooting, trying to get better, and this some dude just sitting on a chair.
Well, and I think it also leads to credence of what you and I have talked about before, in the sense that, if the NBA wants the G League to feel like an actual option for kids out of high school and to be taken seriously, like, they've got to step up their game here in the G League. Obviously, they're stepping up their game here in their 2K league, but like, they need to push up their G League more. To me, like, you need to put more support kind of behind it, and it seems like this 2K league is almost going to become more popular than the G League will itself. But that we've talked quite a bit there about the NBA, and I want to get over to a couple other things that have happened since the last we recorded. One of them being RGIII, Robert Griffin III, has signed with the Baltimore Ravens. I think solid pickup for them. There were reports that last season they were going to try and sign him after being cut by the Browns, but there just wasn't enough time for him to be able to learn the offense and all that. And so now they make that, like, I think is a solid backup for Joe Flacco.
Oh, I would totally agree.
Obviously, for him, the concern is his injury history, but like, he could be a solid backup. Maybe his starting days are probably over. I think if anywhere there was, Cleveland was the chance for him to get that back, and once again he kind of just got injured, and now he's set as a pretty good backup, and like, you can still make a really good living off of being a backup in the NFL. So,
well, and having Joe Flacco as a starter, I'm just saying, to sit on a bench and still earn money, I'd be fine with it. I'm not getting injured. I'm doing great.
And he's if Flacco gets injured, he is a serviceable backup.
Oh yes, he is.
To take that. So, quick thoughts there on that. And then the other thing, the Masters started today. Tiger's playing in the Masters for the first time since I think they said 2015, and it's been a 1,089 days since he played in the Masters. It's been, I think it was like 965 days since he last played in a major tournament, and that was the PGA Championship. So it's been a long time since we've seen Tiger at the Masters. He seems to have been playing well this so far in the season, and he hasn't won anything, but he's been competitive. He's been right there at the end, and I think you would really see the excitement if Tiger, come Sunday, that he's in contention for the win. Like, you would see those ratings, I think, spike up dramatically because that Tiger effect is back in golf. It wasn't the same with Tiger being, terrible Tiger, right? Golf was at its peak when Tiger was honestly winning everything, or, when he was right there at the end, because everybody knew he was going to close it out at the end. So, I know you and I both don't watch a lot of golf on TV. I watched a little bit of it today, just because I get it started, and I was only sitting down for a bit to be able to watch TV, and watched it, enjoyed it, for the most part, enjoyed watching Tiger back on the course. But I think the other kind of story coming out of this is the golfer who dislocated his ankle on the par 3 challenge that they had yesterday, the day before the Masters started.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
His name?
Tony Finau, I think.
Yeah. That. Tony Finau. He hits it. He hits a hole in one.
Oh yeah.
Right, and so he's celebrating. If you haven't seen this video, you can go Google it. It's Tony Finau. The last name is Finau. Just Google it. You can see him, and he's celebrating, right? And he's kind of running down the course backwards, and all of a sudden you see him like he rolled his ankle, but then he goes to get up, and you can see it's been dislocated. Which
is so weird.
And it's just like, to watch it is disturbing, it's and like I don't know, like, if you're squeamish, I don't know if you want to watch it. Maybe don't watch it around children if you're going to watch it until you view it first. But it's not like terrible because you just see him. It looks like he rolled his ankle, but then you can tell it's clearly dislocated. And the crazy thing is, he just pops it right back in. He just pushes on it and pops it back in.
I'm just saying, what a legend, dude. Like,
well, and he's playing today. Like, exactly. Doctors cleared him to play, and you could tell, like, when I was watching the Masters earlier, you could tell it seemed to be starting to bother him a little bit. But, I mean, good grief, he is tied for second at the end of the first round. He's only 2 shots off the lead after dislocating your ankle the day before. Like, that's impressive. Now, will the pain be too much in the end? We'll see, but, like, I watched him, and he was kind of gingerly going to lean down to pick up the ball out of the cup after he had putted the ball in, and he leaned down today to pick it up, and, like, you could tell he's kind of being ginger and careful to make sure he didn't get that left ankle, which I guess of overall, that's the best news, is that that leg doesn't take a whole lot of torque in the swing, right? If it was his right leg, I think he would probably be done for the Masters, which would be sad. But the Masters going on, I hope to see Tiger. He didn't fare too well today. I think he was +1 on the day. Not a great showing, but there's still 3 more rounds before they give away the green jacket. And the other news out of there was Sergio Garcia, and poor guy, 5 straight balls. And I watched this happen, what I presume as being live, as I was watching it on ESPN earlier. It was live to me then. He's going to chip it up on the green. The green has kind of a downhill slope on one side that leads into like a little pond. And he hits it up, and it's coming down. You think it's going to stop, and then all of a sudden it hits like a steeper incline and just weep. bloop, bloop, right there into the water. And then he tries the second one. And you see it, and you're like, it's going to stop. Nope, there goes bloop, bloop. And it just keeps going and going. And poor guy finally gets it up there. And, that pretty much ruined his day and possibly ruined his weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And he's the defending Masters champion. But I'm hoping for golfing's sake, you and I both like to play golf, not necessarily watch golf. But I'm hoping for the sake of the Masters that Tiger is in contention come Sunday. Because if he is, I will probably tune in, not maybe fully, but I'll tune in and out. And we would be on Tiger Watch. A lot of people then would be on Tiger Watch. But the last thing that you and I are going to discuss today, something that you and I both love, especially this time of year, is WWE's WrestleMania is this weekend. WrestleMania 34 happens in New Orleans in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. I am looking forward to it. This also is the time that other people kind of outside of WWE that aren't the hardcore followers also are tuning in, because this is their biggest thing that they do all year. So, looking forward to it. Some great matches. This time that it gets a little more of the outside world drawn in, and they use some names. Ronda Rousey just came into the WWE. That'll bring more eyes to her first match at WrestleMania. Now, that's I think a cool feat to have your first match at WrestleMania, your first match ever inside WWE's ring.
That's insane. Of course, I'm a huge WWE fan. I'm so excited, dude. This whole Undertaker situation is kind of getting annoying, but I see where they're kind of going with it. I'm hoping he comes out as the I can't pronounce it.
When he was are you talking about the American Badass?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And that's kind of the last character that Mark Calloway has to pay any homage to before he might actually officially hang up the wrestling boots. But for WWE, this is a big weekend. This is, when they do their Hall of Fame, even though right now they don't have an official brick and mortar Hall of Fame, it's kind of in theory. But you also go, if you went to the WrestleMania Access that happens, you can see all the other Hall of Fame, the other legendary stuff that has happened, the history there in WrestleMania Access. For the developmental brand, NXT, they have a big show Saturday night. You and I will be sitting there watching it. Sunday starting at 5 with their kickoff show. Their official show starts at 7. And, you can go, if you want to watch it, you can sign up for the WWE Network and get it for free. Hey, that's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Because you think of it, when they've shifted over to this WWE Network, then that kind of did away with them on pay-per-view. I don't even know if they do that anymore, pay-per-views.
No, I don't think so. But
they still might, but you think about it, that was $80 to $100 just for WrestleMania.
Oh, I remember, dude. I remember buying it. Oh.
Well, and a couple years, 2-3 years before it, we did. We split it in half. We purchased the pay-per-view to be able to watch WrestleMania, and that was kind of the only one we really watched all year. We might do SummerSlam as well. But WrestleMania, right, as they say, the grandest show of them all, right, the showcase of the immortals, it's just something that brings the outside of WWE people in even for just one night. When you have people like Ronda Rousey now in WWE, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit more now. Obviously, we're not going to make this a WWE-centric podcast, but something that we enjoy, and I think you can argue if it's a sport or not, because yes, and spoiler alert in case you don't know, it is scripted. But at the same time, those athletes, they communicate with each other, and there's no doubt that they are athletes.
Oh,
putting your body on the line. Like, you think about it, even doing some of those basic moves, there's a lot of risk involved, especially if one of them involves you flipping. Like, there can be a lot of damage done to a neck with one wrong move, and you have to trust the person you're working with, and you have to be in shape to be able to do it in some form or fashion. That's why you don't really see a lot of people being like a Vader, of the past, or a Yokozuna. Yeah. Like, they are more in shape. They're training. They're getting their bodies right. But we'll talk about that a little bit more on the first episode for next week. But wanted to kind of get in our hype for that, and even give them a free cheap plug here. You can go get it for free if you're not a WWE Network subscriber. Like, that's crazy if you want to just watch it just because we talked about it. And if you do that, just send WWE a little quick tweet and say you heard about it here just for us. We get nothing from it, but just be nice to, let them know that you heard it here from us. But with all that being said, to be able to interact with us and to help us stay encouraged in this early part, I guess you could say, of this podcast, to also help us know that people are listening, go do us a favor and subscribe on whatever you listen to, whether it's on Spreaker, on Stitcher, on iHeart. iTunes obviously is the most popular one. Go subscribe, leave us a review there on iTunes. Go ahead and hit the 5-star. Don't even think about doing anything less. 5 stars is fair and should be the only thing you click. And just it's the easiest thing to do. You don't have to think about it. Just click that 5th star there and go subscribe to it. You can also interact with us on Facebook and on Twitter. Facebook.com/RD Sports Report. You can find us on Twitter and follow us. RD Sports Report. Send us a tweet. Share it with your friends. Let us grow and grow. And, as we grow and get that out there, everything we would do would be to help benefit you all, our faithful and loyal audience. And with all that being said, that'll do it again for another episode of the R&D Sports Report.